powers that be have to operate under universal law. So if you don't know anything about astrology, if you don't study the planets and what the constellations are all about, then you're going to have to take my word for it and fact check later. But it's a lot of information, so I'm going to get right into it. So understand, for argument's sake, if you want to do anything on this planet and you want it to work, if you want to do anything on this planet that's going to evolve or involve the collective energy of the planet, then you have to do so under universal law. So again, universal law, what is that? Universal law is you operating within the law of the universe involving the energies of the planet, the stars, the sun, and the moon. Plain and simple. So if you're into astrology, then you understand different planets have different energies. You read horoscopes and talk about what this planet does, so on and so forth. We'll get into that. So in order for you to operate under universal law, you have to operate under the energy that the planets that are in your house involves. So understand, like when you are in a certain house, there are planets in that house. Those planets have different energies that are basically available to you while you are in that house. So you will be affected by the energies of this planet, everybody in a different way based upon your astrological sign or based upon your consciousness, if you understand. Because understand, no matter what, your consciousness will trump all if you understand the energies and you know how to act accordingly. So understand, again, in order for you to do anything involving the collective energy of this planet and having any type of success in what you are trying to do, you can only operate within universal law using the energies that is provided to you during a certain time or age involving the sun, the moon, the stars, well, the constellations, and the different planets. Okay, so understand that. So I want you to think about, the ancients, the ancestors, and how when we go back and look, we find so many different, uh, you know, carvings of the stars. We find stuff about the planets. They worship the sun, the moon, different constellations. The Bible talks about the heavens being in space. It talks about the heavens being, above. Everything is about space. Everything is about the heavens. So you have to look at the fact that the Egyptians aligned the pyramids with the stars on Orion's belt. We have to look at the seven churches that's in Turkey that aligns with the stars, the seven stars in the Pleiades. We have to look at all of these structures around the world that are aligned with constellations, planets, stars, the sun, the moon, so on and so forth. Everything, when you go back in antiquity and look, has to do with space. Plain and simple. There's no way around that. When you look at ancient Egypt, when you look at the Greek mythology, the Greek culture, remember, we're talking about Saturn. We're talking about all the moons of Saturn being Greek gods, and everything is involving the planet. The whole story about Zeus and Jupiter, everything is involving planets. And it's for a very, very important reason, because this is true energy. This is powers. Now, again, this is going to be weird and sound spooky to some of you, but it's going to make a lot of sense. You know how I do videos. So understand that part first. Everything was about the planets, and they grasped the concept that in order for you to have any type of success, you have to act during certain planets corresponding in the house you are in, meaning in the constellation you are in, or in the planetary, let's say, alignment with Earth you are in, and the energies that they provide. So understand, we have holidays, festivals, once a year, every year, to celebrate certain things. And this is what the ancients did as well. They had festivals, they had holidays to celebrate certain things, because back then they understood there is some kind of energy that you can get from this. And you got to think about it today. We look at it today, things like Christmas and these other holidays are simply symbolic to us. We dress up, we do whatever as a symbolic gesture to the holiday. But back then, it wasn't such a thing. You wasn't putting on a costume to impress people or give people a laugh. They did this stuff because they understood was real energy behind it. When we go back and look at the ancients, when we look at the powers that be during ancient times, all the wars they fought from, Kemet all the way up until, taking control of America, they won those wars. up until that point in time. So all the ancient wars we look at, they fought them, they won, they conquered so many different civilizations, and they were able to do so because they followed universal law. They followed the zodiac, plain and simple. So the zodiac is the key to universal law. The zodiac has the houses of God. The Bible always talks about the house of God, things in God's house, so on and so forth. And, my house has many mansions. This is about the houses that's on the cross of the zodiac. Each house has a different constellation. It represents a different astrological sign, and different planets will come in different houses and provide different energies to different people. And you have a choice as a collective to tap into that energy. So understand, and this will make sense. If you are at the head or controlling the collective energy on the planet, then you can decide whether the energy that you siphon from these planets or this planetary or universal energy is going to go towards something good or bad. That is what it's about. It's about choice, duality. So again, the Bible, as I said, it's all about duality. It's about choice and making a choice. So it's going to be whoever is ruling is going to decide, because we are all in a contract, in an agreement, and we are all agreeing to be under this government, these powers that be. We have given our energy to them without even really knowing. And there's only certain ways you can take energy back. And it's why they seem to always be winning at every step, because we are basically agreeing to let them represent us as an energy. So they are deciding how the energy is going to be used, and they have been using it in their favor for generations. So when you understand that, and again, as I said, it's going to sound a little bit spooky at first, but it's going to make sense. They are taking control of the collective energy that is provided to this planet for many different things, and they have been using it to build what they have built. So now, of course, we take it to the Bible, because the Bible is the key to all of this. It's giving you everything, as I always say. It is giving you the answers. And we're going to start with Moses. Moses represents Aries. He represents Aries. Aries, the ram. We see statues of Moses with the ram's horns holding the Ten Commandments. We know the ram represents Judaism. We see that the Jews blow the shofar. And Moses represents Aries. And we know that Aries is Mars. Aries in Greek is the god of war, and it's represented by Mars. Mars represents war. So understand that. So Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. And of course, it's all a metaphorical story. And, he gave them the laws. Remember, the Israelites went out, they went to war, they went conquering everybody, beating everybody, winning all those wars. But before that, Moses had to give them the laws. Now, these are basic laws of man, and these are laws of God. Now, a lot of the laws in the Ten Commandments is basic stuff. Thou shalt not kill, steal. This easy stuff we can remember. There are other laws that are laws of God that are different. So you got to remember what was taking place during this time and the symbology. Some of you guys may know, but I'm going to break it down real quick for those who don't, because it's really important to understand what this stuff is really talking about. Now remember, Moses came down from the mountain, and basically God told him to go down there because the Israelites was worshiping a different God. He goes down there and he sees them worshiping the bull calf, and he breaks, the Ten Commandments, the tablets. So, what was that about? Now it says here, Exodus 32, 1-4. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ear of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings, which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So the last part of that is the clue. How would Aaron know what gods brought them out of Egypt? He didn't see the God that brought him out of Egypt. He just said, here's a bull, worship this. You also have to think about, why would the people want to worship something? Do you understand? So you have to think about, as I said before, they worship things. They understood they had to worship, or basically channel the energy that was being presented to them during that specific time in order to have success in whatever they was trying to do. So you had these people that's coming out of Egypt, or these people that's wandering, basically, trying to start a civilization, and they understand, unless they call on the energy that's available to them, which would be the God during this time, they are not going to have success in what they are trying to do. So understand what it's trying to say. That key is him saying that that's the God that brought him out of Egypt. So you have, Moses come down and sees what happened, and again he breaks the law. The key to this is the very first law. The first law that God gives is, you shall not have any other gods before me. Not that you shouldn't kill or steal. Do not have any other gods before me. You understand? That is the key. But think about it. How could it be any other gods before God? If this is the one true God, what God is before you? What are you talking about? If it's a God before you, then isn't that God? Isn't that God over you? So why would God give a law that's saying you shouldn't worship any gods before me? So that is the key. So when you understand what's being said, it's talking about, of course, the zodiac. Aaron tells them, this is the God that brought you out of Egypt. And as I said, Moses represents Aries. So you guys understand, one, when they got to Mount Sinai, that represents the coming of the age of Aries. The age that they just left is called the Exodus. They were exiting not just Egypt, but exiting the age of Taurus the bull. So when Aaron says, this is the God that brought you out of Egypt, he's talking about the bull, Taurus the bull, a constellation. You understand? So when God, the first commandment he says is, do not worship any gods before me. The God before him would be Taurus. So you got to understand, one, that when we're talking about the zodiac, when we're talking about, which would be the heavens and so on and so forth, the planets, those are gods. They're all gods. We understand this is why in Greek mythology, all the planets was gods. They all have powers and so on and so forth. They are all gods. This is what it's talking about. So you got to think about it. Do not have any gods before me. The reason why this is the most important and number one commandment is because you will not have any power worshiping any God before the God that's in the house that you are in. Understand? So they are now in the house of Aries. The planets that are in Aries during this time, or the constellations that are in Aries, or stars and so on and so forth that are in Aries or in that house at that time, is the power they can draw from. They could draw energy only from those. If you draw energy from any other planets or anything else before what's there, you will not have any success. So they wanted to make that important for you to understand. So important that God wrote on some tablets, and Moses broke them. I mean, just think about that. It's trying to stress how important it is to not be in worshiping the constellations or the energies that's before you, because that's breaking universal law, or the law of God. So easy to understand when you understand astrology. So you have to think about it. This was Taurus the bull. They are in Taurus when we get the Hebrews. When the Israelites come out and they're on their way to starting, they are in Taurus. So you guys seen, bullfights where they say Toro. This is where they get the Torah, the bull. It's talking about the start, the beginning of Judaism for the Hebrews. So Toro, Taurus, Torah, all same thing. So you have the Hebrews getting this knowledge from Moses. And now they have the understanding that, one, we have to follow these certain rules, which they're giving you the hint they already knew because they wanted to worship something. Just think about that. They just came out of there. They want to worship this God. If the God, you seen Moses part the sea. So obviously they understood it's some kind of power here, something going on. So they wanted to know what it was. They wanted to know what was giving them favor during this time. And hey, Aaron, you his man, give us the God that we're supposed to be worshiping so we can have success in what we are doing. So Moses breaks the tablet. We know the tablets go in the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, as I said, they were going around and beating everybody because they had the Ark of the Covenant. That was the source of their power. Now, as I said, you can only access certain power during certain times and ages, which they were in the age of Aries, and they were able to win because they was worshiping the power of the time or age they were in. So big key is the Ark of the Covenant. Now, on top of the Ark, you have the two cherubims. And we know God spoke to them from the Ark, from between those two cherubims. Every time he spoke, it was clouds and lightning and thunder and so on and so forth that appeared. Now, they're giving you a description of, the Ark in the Bible, but you have to understand, argument's sake, the two cherubims represents the stars represents the stars. Remember, Ezekiel, he had a vision about these cherubims. And you have to understand what it's talking about esoterically. So it says here, okay, so it's the previous post, explored the stacks of evidence which suggests that the vision of Ezekiel, one of the most important and most argued over passages of ancient Hebrew scripture, in which the prophet describes a whirlwind from the north and wheels within wheels and the likeness of four living creatures out of the midst of them, is in fact an esoteric description of the awesome celestial machinery which turns the heavens throughout the year, and that those four likenesses correspond to the zodiac sign governing the points of the two solstices, summer and winter, and the two equinoxes, spring and fall. I'm going to skip here. It says, however, in the 10th chapter of Ezekiel, the scripture text uses a different term to describe the subjects of this vision. In addition to talking about likenesses, the text reintroduces them, but this time in the midst of much description of cherubim or cherubims in the Geneva 1599 or King James 1611 translations, while still referring to the four faces and turning wheels. Now, however, there are several verses referring to the carrying of burning coals in the hand, mainly in the hands of the cherubims, hands, which they are described as having under their wings. But again, this is referring to the stars. The cherubims represent stars. We're gonna make that point in a second. But understand, remember, Genesis 1:14 says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament. Understand, lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. This is astrology is talking about, clear as day. This is what they are supposed to follow. This is all important. It's leading up to everything. Just, be patient. So now we all know we find the Ark or the real Ark in Kemet. So we find where they stole the design for the Ark of the Covenant in Kemet. But on top of that Ark, we see Anubis. And Anubis is the key. So they specifically made sure they mention the description of the Ark of the Covenant and what's on top, being the cherubims. So when we go to Kemet and we see that Ark, but we don't see cherubims on top, naturally Anubis is the key. So now Anubis is the dog star. Anubis represents the dog star. He represents Canis Major, Canis Minor. So there's only one thing in that area that fits exactly Ezekiel's vision, and it's called Procyon. Procyon is a star or a sun that is bigger than our sun. And when you look at it at certain times, it looks like it has spinning wheels. It is the only thing that fits Ezekiel's vision. But they are giving you that clue to show you that when it's talking about cherubims, because they related it to the cherubims, it's talking about stars. It's important. So, as I said, they described these wheels. Now, it's a company called Procyon. They manufacture synthetic rubber bonded wheels. So God talks to them from the top of the Ark of the Covenant. And as I said, every time he talks, it's thunder, lightning, and everything like that. Clouds appear. And as I just said, the cherubims represent stars. So when he's giving you the description of the Ark of the Covenant and how the tabernacle, remember, they told him to build this tabernacle, and that's where it's going to be housed at. And when they give you the description, it says here, this is Exodus 26:1. It says, moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them.